Yesterday, MiBR dropped a bombshell when they announced that they would be immediately releasing Taco, Fur, and Dead from their CSGO roster and essentially overhauling the entire team. And it comes as no surprise from the outside, at least, that they are making such dramatic roster changes because they've had such a poor run of form, in particular in 2020. The past few months have been abysmal for the team, but even since they signed for MiBR, they've never really been able to reach that peak that they had in LG and SK in particular. So really, like I said, it comes as no surprise, and it was about time that they actually went for the full overhaul of the team, because they had been making one or two roster changes, changing a player here, changing a coach there, but in essence it never really made much of a difference, and it was time that they actually broke the core apart and reset the entire project. So that's the news that came out of the MiBR camp yesterday, and it was actually immediately met with disagreement from Fallen and KNG. They publicly spoke out and said that they were against these changes. They immediately came out on social media and said that they had nothing to do with this. And it was indeed the changes made by the organization themselves exclusively. This had nothing to do with the team and the individual players in the roster. This decision came from upper management. And I think MiBR made the right call, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. So, like I said, KNG immediately came out and he tweeted that he had nothing to do with these changes and he didn't agree with them. Then Fallen went one step further. He said he also didn't agree with them, but that he would actually be taking a step back from the roster entirely and taking some time to actually regather himself and find his fighting spirit again, whatever that may be. All of the players have sort of alluded that this is definitely not the end of the road for them, and that there is still far more to come from these players, whether it's together. I'm not sure if they intend to create a team together again, or whether perhaps, Fallen is going to accept it and continue to work with MiBR. KNG hasn't effectively announced that he's stepping back from the roster, so he's officially still a part of the team, along with TRK, who I just feel so sorry for. But yeah, I mean, Fallen's sort of taken the whole angle that we started this project as a team and we're going to be finishing it as a team. He's not going to be leaving his teammates out to dry and, using them as a scapegoat, which is kind of ironic when you think about how some of the changes have actually been going on over the past 2 years with the likes of Phelps, the likes of Mayan, for another really good example, and TRK. Shame, I mean, he's just got the short end of the stick now as well. Even Lucas was a bit of a scapegoat as well, just making these small changes in the team when clearly there was a much bigger issue at hand, and just changing one individual time and time again wasn't going to be actually changing the course of this team. So that is the news right now. That's the situation. So effectively, it's only KNG and TRK who are officially still a part of the roster. So let's go back to the beginning now. MiBR signed SK in June 2018, where they picked up the two Americans, Stewie and Tarek, along with the core three Brazilians, Fallen, Fur, and Cold Zero. That was the team that made up the original MiBR. And that team wasn't half bad. I mean, the thing is they were held to the same standard as SK, who were the back-to-back major winners in 2016. They had Cold Zero, who was the best player in 2016 and 2017. So this team was held to really high standards, and I think that's why people didn't really think too highly of the Stewie Tarek version of MiBR. So they end up removing Stewie and Tarek in December 2018. As I just go through their roster changes in the past 2 years, they remove Stewie and Tarek, and they end up bringing Taco and Phelps into the team. Phelps now with his second stint with this Brazilian team. Of course, he played in SK. Now he's forming part of the roster in the early 2019. They bring Taco back as well, who had been a part of Liquid, and he had some success with that team. Of course, they reached the major final, and they got really far, but never really looked like it was a super set project and looked really comfortable. It had its place and it had its success, but was never going to be a world-beating team. So he ends up rejoining back with MiBR now, like I said, along with Phelps. They replaced Tarek and Stewie. And this team doesn't really get off the floor either. They end up making a change to the coach the next month, where they removed Zeus and they brought Dead, who transitioned from a general manager position into the coach of the team. I've never really seen Dead as a massive tactician. He seems like a really good people person. And sometimes that's all you need from a coach as well. You just need a person who knows how to handle individuals, how to resolve conflict. So maybe it was more of they wanted a people person as opposed to an actual strategist or an actual coach who's going to be contributing to the Counter-Strike structure in the team, which obviously Zeus would have been that coach. So in March 2019, they make that change. Again, there's no drastic change to the results. In fact, they still just continue to decline as time goes on. Then the massive change comes, like literally the biggest change. coldzera decides he's going to be approaching a new project. He wants to do something different. He's grown tired of the past few years, and it's understandable as well. I mean, he was the best player in the world in 2016 and 17. He had achieved everything he could with this team, and he just wanted something fresh. And FaZe was an option, playing with the likes of Nico, the two of the best players in the world. It was like almost a dream for a bunch of people in the scene that those two would play alongside one another. So Cold ends up leaving the roster in June 2019 along with Phelps. So there we go, Phelps. Wham bam. Thanks for coming again, man. You know, much appreciated. Another little 4 or 5 month stint where you never really got a chance to shine. Sort of just got, made the scapegoat once again. And after that change, they bring Lucas and KNG into the team in September. So I think there was like a little player break. And after that, they bring Lucas along with KNG into the team. That's September 2019. Lucas doesn't last very long in the team. It's like a 3-month stint that he has, and after that they end up releasing Lucas again. They're keeping the core set together, and they're just releasing the outsider. The new acquisition sort of gets blamed for their issues. When you make a roster change and the player you end up kicking from the team is sort of the one who gets stuck with the baggage of being the reason for their lackluster performances, which I don't think was at all fair. And after they release Lucas, they then bring Mayan into the team, this little 17-year-old Argentinian protege. He was 17 at the time, turned 18 recently. And this was like the sort of change that they needed, or that they made, to bring the youth into the team, to bring some sort of a young superstar. But then he had to mold to the team, and he had to learn how to speak Portuguese. And apparently there was a lot of cultural differences between the Argentinian and the Brazilians as well, which was one of the biggest setbacks, something that they really struggled to actually, a gap that they struggled to bridge. So again, Mayan was in the team for a solid 5-6 months, but never really got to settle into a position he was really comfortable with. So May of 2020 comes around, and they make another roster change. They end up removing Mayan, and they bring TRK into the team. Now, for me, it actually feels like TRK was the first addition that actually made sense for this roster and that actually started to look good. He was hitting shots. He was doing everything that the team needed from him. But essentially, turns out, surprise, surprise, it wasn't the one player that you changed that made much of a difference, because there was still that complete overhaul that happened, which was announced yesterday, as I said. Taco Fur and Dead being removed from the team, and effectively Fallen removing himself as well. So those are the roster changes that MiBR have had over the past 2 years. Never really a team set for longer than 6 months. I think like 5 months was the longest they went without actually making a change, which is quite ridiculous when you think about it. These guys were paying huge salaries. I mean, there was the joke from Steel, it was $150,000 per month that they were paying these players. Obviously not each, but in total. And so, I mean, massive investments coming through from MiBR and literally nothing to show for it. This team has had so much potential, but they haven't even been able to live up to 50% of it. So that's the roster changes that have happened with MiBR over the past 2 years. This team has had a massive fall from grace, and it hasn't been a gracious one either. It's not like a team that, like sort of slowly tapered off and declined, like almost a Virtus Pro, if you will. This team's fall from grace has been marred by a lot of negative things that they did. Then there are multiple notable fuck-ups over the past few months that this team committed that just has lost them a lot of fans and a lot of respect, I think. They made some totally bullshit decisions. They got super entitled, really arrogant. And these were the guys, these were the heroes of the Counter-Strike scene, the guys who came from nothing and showed that when you have the formula, when you have everybody together believing in one dream, they inspired so many people. And it got to their heads, which is just such a pity. So I'm going to talk about a few of their fuck-ups over the past few months. Like, in particular, just like talking about 2020's transgressions from this team. The first one is just in general, it's about their scapegoats and how, the likes of Phelps twice got screwed over the past few years. Mayan as well, this youngster. Lucas got the short end of the stick. So, like, they've just had these scapegoats time and time again, never actually taking the onus and the responsibility on the core of the roster and realizing that that was potentially the issue. But that was just more a general scheme thing, where there's actually some like specific isolated incidents. And the first one was Fur's racist comments that he made in the earlier stages of this year, where he sort of insinuated that that like long soft hair was superior to like short hard hair. And the way that I understand it, the way it's been discussed, is it's like it was like a racial based thing. It's not like, oh, different hairstyles. It was actually, it came back to differentiating between different races on the basis of their hair and how one was superior to the other, which is total bullshit. And everyone tried to play it off as if it wasn't a racist thing. MiBR ended up releasing a statement in Portuguese so that nobody who didn't know about the issue would end up getting wind of it anyway. I mean, can you imagine if like this was during the time of the whole Black Lives Matter movement as well, and like imagine some like major news outlets got wind of this, like ESPN or something like that. They would have received a massive backlash, probably would have been forced to bench Fur over the incident. So instead they go for the pussy route. They just released a statement in Portuguese and they end up getting away with it. Like they just fined him a little bit and donated the money to a cause. That's the end of the issue, no problem. I mean, in major sports, when there's these huge racial incidents, like there's such a big backlash, it's actually crazy. So the way that they handled that was very poor form from them. So that was the first thing. After that, another major sign of their entitlement came through when they forced Furia to reset a round where they actually didn't even have to do it. It was a game on Inferno. The score was 14-14. It was at the Blast Spring Series, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was like this massive game between the two biggest Brazilian rivals. And MiBR end up having some like really bad technical issues in the round, in the 29th round of this big game in the first map. So after damage had been done by Furia in Banana, I think they had thrown some util which did damage to Fur. MiBR called for a reset in the round. Okay, so immediately, I can't remember if the round immediately got paused or if they played the round out and Furia won the round. And MiBR immediately starts saying we need to reset, we've been having lag. They take videos of their lag and they immediately upload those videos to social media, and they basically harass Furia into resetting the round, which they didn't have to reset because the law is if damage has been done, the team that did the damage doesn't have to agree to the restart. Only if no damage has been done in the round, then a restart can be called into effect. So MiBR, who feel fully entitled to a restart when they actually aren't, then start getting really frustrated at the situation, sending messages in chat saying that they should definitely be restarting and really painting Furia as the bad guys in the situation. They take these videos of their lag and they literally upload it to social media while they're live in the game, trying to get the public on their side and show why won't they reset this round, look at how badly we lagging. Like I said, making Furia out to be the bad guys, which is a load of bullshit, because they were actually handling it with due process, letting their coach sort it out with the admins, just saying let the coaches and the admins sort it out. They just sat there, they patiently waited, and MiBR, they took that as a sign of disrespect, that Furia didn't immediately bow down and say, yes, Lord MiBR, you call for a reset, that is what we shall do. So that was another one that left like a really sour taste in my mouth, and I think a lot of other people's as well. And that was like one of the first signs of like a large amount of entitlement in the camp, when they just felt like they had that right to call for a reset when they actually didn't. The next big deal, which was the biggest deal for me personally, and I think, like I said, with the other one, a lot of other people as well felt very strongly about this, and it was the cheating accusations that they brought upon Leaf after they lost to Chaos in a Road to Rio match. Okay, so this was a massive game for the organization because this was a game they needed to win in order to work towards continuing to secure qualification for the major that was going to be happening in Brazil, which is now being cancelled, ironically. So they lost a game to Chaos 2-1, and immediately after the match ends, Fallen comes out and he makes the tweet accusing Leaf, a 16-year-old kid, of cheating against them, and he takes 3 clips which are a little bit dodgy, but go search YouTube and you can find hundreds of clips that are more dodgy than that, and he uses this as supposedly out and out evidence that Leaf used aimbot against them and that he had cheated. What a load of fucking horseshit that is. First of all, even if Leaf did cheat, there is no world in which that is the right path to take, to go on social media. Fallen has over 1 million followers on Twitter. He's got so many stans. These guys are huge followers and supporters of Fallen. In particular, he's the godfather of the Brazilian scene. And so now it's come out that he suspects Leaf of cheating, okay? And he comes out, doesn't say, wow, this was really dodgy, or it's like he out and out says he was using aimbot against us, okay? Not only that, but all of the MiBR players are in coordinates with that. They completely agree with him. They're sharing it. They're giving their opinions. They're giving it the limelight. And this is the narrative after the game. We lost to Chaos because Leaf cheated. Because there's 3 semi-suspect clips. Gaules is going crazy on his stream, literally being the judge, jury, and executioner. Just got thousands. I don't even know if this was a game he had hundreds of thousands of people watching, because sometimes, I mean, he got up to 300,000 people concurrently watching his CSGO stream at one stage. Of course, he's the massive Brazilian streamer. So he was on stream after the game, running his mouth, saying, going, you know, slow motion through each clip, saying, look at all this evidence, it's clear that he's cheating. And it's literally shit that's as rudimentary as Leaf looking to heaven in Overpass after a flashbang comes through the smoke, and he pre-aims the player who jumps out of the smoke, and it's like, oh my god, he's clearly cheating. Like, that is just a load of bullshit. I'm sorry. So they come out and they have all these accusations. Okay, so that's the first part of this Leaf cheating saga that I have an issue with. The second part is that there's been no apologies or retraction of these cheating accusations. Now that they've come to their senses, they haven't gone and said, yeah, you know what, we were just hot-headed, we were super frustrated, we let our emotions get the better of us, and we're sorry, Leaf. Because Leaf's family started receiving death threats, let alone the 16-year-old who just, the whole, you know, come to Brazil narrative, you know, all these threats to him and his well-being. This little 16-year-old just gets completely bombarded with a massive amount of hate, and it's all because of these tweets that come out from Fallen and this witch hunt from Gaules. So for me, that was the moment where I was like, fuck this team, like, seriously, I don't give a shit about MiBR anymore, which is like, I mean, look at the jumper I'm wearing. I was a huge fan of them. One of my best mates in the scene, Wham, he bought this for me when he went to Cologne in 2016, which was the massive successful year for SK. And now this is, even me as a big fan of, like, this has completely changed my mentality towards them. They were the heroes, and now they're the zeros because of all of these decisions that they've made. So the Leaf cheating saga, or the accusations, that was the tipping point for me. And the entire time, the funny part is that they're playing the victim card throughout all of this as well. It's like, woe is me. We're the ones who are actually receiving most of the hate. We're the ones who are the saddest right now at the situation, not actually taking responsibility for their actions and for their way that they've been over the past few months. Actually just playing the victim card and just going for the pussy approach of tapping out and being like, you know what, we're actually the ones who are suffering the most, not the people that we've been calling out and actually fighting and just being a complete nuisance to. So that was another thing, is like, they couldn't even own up and just take responsibility, just completely played the victim the whole time. I mean, even just a smaller thing, the way that they engaged with Steel, who used to be a part of Chaos. Of course, now he's transitioned to 100 Thieves' Valorant roster. There was that like little altercation between himself and Dead where he called Dead out for literally stream sniping in an official match. Dead has two monitors. On the one monitor is the game he's coaching. On the monitor next to it is the live stream of the game that his team is playing in. Because if anyone doesn't know, you can keep track of economy. You can see the way that teams are running their defaults and their strats. You can pick up on things in the game. I don't care if it's a minute and 40 seconds behind. You shouldn't have an insight like that into the team you're playing against in that moment. And here he is. How can you not think further than your nose? You've got the camera in the corner of the screen. You're sitting in the opposite corner of the room. And you've got the stream open. I mean, if you're going to cheat, at least do it a bit more subtly than that. Seriously. So Steel calls him out for that. And he says, no, I'm not going to be engaging with a match fixer. Oh my good God, the irony that ends up coming out from that, by the way, when Dead gets caught using the cheating, the coach bug. He cheats using the coach bug in a RMR match, which is the Rio Major ranking. He uses the cheat in a game which has got so much more behind it. It's a game that means so much more than the game that I buy power through. Yes, of course, there was like tens of thousands of dollars that was lost and the integrity of the game was hugely affected, not taking away from that. But this was also a massive discrepancy for MiBR. The fact that he cheated in a game as big as this, used the coach bug, and then came out and tried to deny that he had used the coach bug thereafter. Just a load of shit. He's a fluent English speaker, been living in America for years, and he comes out and he tries to play the innocent card once again. He plays a clip from an event that actually had nothing to do with the event they were referring to, you know, with the accusations that came out from the ESL admin. Not going to butcher his name by trying to pronounce it. I know I've ended up just like tangling this together because I was talking about the Steel thing, and the irony is just how he said, I'm not going to engage with the match fixer, completely deflecting Steel's point about him stream sniping, and then he goes on to cheat in a game as well. Wow, how high and mighty can you actually be when you're just a tithead? With all due respect, I'm sorry, but like, that's not cool, man. To first of all, you know, hit a man at his weakest when you're actually guilty of what he's accusing of, and then to go on and cheat yourself, like that's really poor form in my opinion. There was even that fossil meme, you know, that Chaos brought up, and MiBR responded, oh, we tried to create a meme with your team, but all we could find was like this match fixer sort of thing. So it just showed that MiBR had no sustenance. They had no ability to banter. They had no ability to try and see the funny side of things. They just took everything super personally and wanted to try and inflict as much damage as they could in response. And the only thing that they could snag on was Steel's match fixing history. And now he's in Valorant, so I wonder what they're going to jump on next. So those were the notable fuck-ups over the past few months for the MiBR organization, which has literally led to this fall from grace. It's not only that they haven't been performing at the level that we know they're capable of. It's not only like they've been losing these officials and these events and haven't been getting any trophies in the past few years. It's that they've actually been dickheads as well in the past few months. So that's for me is what sort of led to this demise and this lack of respect that everybody has for them. And it's a massive shame because we are talking about literal legends who accomplished some of the greatest things that Counter-Strike has ever had done in its history, in its 21-year history. And it's all been tarnished by this. What a shame. I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, just talking about their results, they've only won 4 of their last, or 5 of their last 14 matches. They've lost 9 of their last 14 officials. And they've been losing to teams like Gambit Youngsters, Copenhagen Flames, again Copenhagen Flames, Galaxy Racer. Yeah, I know you don't know who they are. They're a tier 3 Swedish team. Yeah, there's some noticeable names like Plessen and Freddy Frog and Relaxer, but come on, we're talking about some of the biggest names in World Counter-Strike here. They lost to Pact. They didn't just lose to Mad Lions, they got absolutely dogged by Mad Lions, who, by the way, were struggling to beat other teams as well. Mad Lions were, and then they come and beat MiBR 16-1, 16-6. MiBR lost to Forza. They lost to Wisla Krakow, or however you pronounce the Polish team's name. They got dogged by G2, beaten by FaZe, Furia, of course, and Liquid. That's no mean feat, but like, this team has been nowhere over the past few months. Ever since they came back from the player break, it's been a nightmare, and that's why I say it's no surprise that the upper management in MiBR decided, alright, it's time to take the massive route, it's time to hit the big red button and actually just completely overhaul the roster, because what else could they do? What other options did they have? They had to change the core, but they haven't even been able to now, because Fallen has decided that he's going to be the captain who goes down with his ship, sort of thing, not leaving Taco and Fur out in the cold. KNG spoke out about it against it as well, so who knows where they go from here, man. I mean, this team's last title came in the Zotac Masters in 2018 in August. So it was literally even at like a tier 2 or a tier 3 event. And that was the last time that they won a championship. After that, they made a bunch of roster changes, but none of them were actually changing the core. None of them changed the culture in the team. So they just continued on that downward spiral. I mean, even towards the end, this is the only anecdote you need. KNG became the IGL of MiBR. What? Fallen. The one man who it doesn't matter what team he's in, when you think of that name, he is the captain, he is the leader. And now they've made such a change that not even he is at the top of the pops anymore. Not even he is the one who's making the calls. He's just an AWPer. And that for me was like the last straw. Nothing against KNG, but it's the fact that they had all lost belief in Fallen. He had lost belief in himself, and they went with such a drastic change. What a fuck up this has ended up being. And they don't even get a chance at redemption because it's all over. They've released the players. It's all done. So it's such a pity that there is no opportunity or chance for these guys to redeem themselves and get back up to the top of World Counter-Strike and show that they still have what it takes. Furia are the team to beat in Brazil now. They have been for a few months. Not only that, but they're a stand-up team. All of their morals are in place as well. They don't get involved in the unnecessary things outside of the server. And they've definitely been an example of how to just be in general as a team. Don't get embroiled in the bullshit. It's not necessary. So this video has actually ended up turning out to be a lot longer than I wanted to be. So I'll try timestamp it or something like that, hopefully, so that you can just go through it and have a look at the parts that you care the most about. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much sums up how this 2-year MiBR project has gone, in particular focusing on 2020, and this is the end of the road for them. Who knows what's going to be happening from here? We're going to be waiting for some announcements to come through, because they've got other events on the horizon. They've got other events coming up in the next few months, which they signed up for. So there's IEM New York, which is happening in less than a month. And then they've got the Blast Premier Fall Series, which is in 6 weeks. So we're going to have to wait and see. Are they going to be pulling out of those events? Are they going to be bringing... are they going to be going into an international roster? So Made in Brazil is actually not a Brazilian team anymore. So many question marks hovering around. We're going to have to wait and see what comes from this, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave any feedback or comments. Send it my way. I'm really keen to hear what you guys think. Of course, this is just my second video I've made. And I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time.